Should we clap? I don't know if it's gonna.
You might as well, yeah.
Alright, that's on. Alright. Welcome to It's Kind of a Gig Deal. I'm Dave Jenkins, and this is Andrew Steiner. This is the podcast where we talk about anything but 9 to 5s, all the gig work people do to make it in art. We're both comedians, so we're going to talk to each other. You and I, like I said earlier, we know each other. So
Yeah.
When would you say? Probably like
17,
18,
yeah.
Was it at that bar in New Rochelle?
Yes.
It was at that one, right?
Probably, yeah.
Yeah, that was a shit show.
Yeah, I lived right around the corner from there.
Yeah, okay. I was living in Yonkers at the time. And that was...
Are you from Westchester originally?
I am. I'm from Yonkers.
Oh, okay.
And I was living there until maybe 2018, I think. And then I moved to Harlem. But yeah, that whole time... Actually, this is good for the Gig Economy podcast. My first bad review was in New Rochelle.
Bad review in terms
On
of...
Taskrabbit.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, because back then I was still new, so I was doing like everything.
Yeah.
Like right now, I just do furniture assembly and moving. But I was doing everything back then, so I cleaned. My first and only cleaning job.
Yeah.
I showed up to, I think it was like the Trump Tower in New Rochelle. And I'm like, all right, nice place. It's not going to be like filthy. And I walked in and it was like this couple, both like probably our age now. And then just like clothes and like clutter everywhere, like not dirt and like garbage.
Yeah.
And I was like, you're both home. What do you... And then he was like getting ready. He was like putting on tennis clothes. So he's on his way out. So I'm like, all right, he's busy today. I'm like, what's up with you?
Mm-hmm.
And then she was like, I just don't want to do it. I was like, what the fuck? Okay, like I think someone paid for that apartment.
She just wants to watch you.
And they've never cleaned in their life, and they don't plan on starting.
Did she stick around while
she
you
watched
clean?
me clean.
That's
Yeah.
crazy.
And then I was like doing dishes, and there wasn't a whole lot to do. And I worked at a pool for a couple of years doing like everything but lifeguards. Like I know how to clean when you tell me what you want. And so I did it probably in an hour, maybe less. I was like, we good? She's like, yeah, that was everything. I was like, all right, cool. And then I get a bad review. It was like 1 star. It goes, he obviously didn't want to be there, with a frown emoticon. I was like, what the fuck? I wasn't mean to her. I definitely didn't like, listen, I was judging her, but I wasn't like looking her. It wasn't written on my face. I was just like, oh, you want me to clean this? Fine. That's fine.
Right.
But that was that. So you do not what I do. You do
Podcast production.
Podcast production, which he's not producing this one because I'd have to pay him for it because I
No.
respect gig work too much. But all right, so when did you start doing that?
Probably 2017, 2016, right
Okay.
before I met you.
And that was because of comedy, before, during?
I started podcasting at the exact same time I started doing comedy.
Same.
Yeah.
I had a podcast for like 6 months, and then I was like, just do fucking stand-up. And then I juggled both for 3 months, and I'm like, stop fucking podcasting.
I was doing both, but I kind of like dropped a bunch of podcasts.
Yeah.
And I had one for a while that was not popular, but like, you know, we had more listeners than I had any right to have. It was called Weird Ball, and like
Weird Ball?
some good guests. I had like Ian Fidance on.
Cool. Hell yeah. All right.
Yeah, like back in the day. And one of my guests knew a guy who was a podcast producer,
Mm-hmm.
and he had me fill in for him with Pete Holmes.
Oh, cool.
And I went to Pete Holmes' house, and I basically I didn't know what the fuck I was doing. I bought way too much equipment. Like I brought like a board and all this stuff.
And it was yours. Like, you own it.
Yeah.
You weren't renting it.
But it was like a stupid amount of equipment that
Yeah.
I didn't need. And I just sat on the floor while him and like Jessica Kierson talked.
That's awesome. What I don't want to ask for the address, but like what neighborhood, where was he living?
I think it was Williamsburg.
Yeah.
Yeah. But he was just filming Crashing. You know, he doesn't live out here.
Oh, okay.
So he was renting it.
Yeah.
Subletting it or whatever.
Okay, cool. And then, but that was just like freelance. Like here's a job for like, I don't know, a couple of days, weeks, or.
It was a weird thing. It was like just first of all, the guest on my podcast was initially supposed to do it.
It's supposed to be his job.
Yeah.
Okay.
But he didn't know what he was doing. Like that wasn't his thing. He was an editor.
Okay.
And he was like, yo, you do it. I'll just watch while you do the job. So he wanted to be just another fly on the wall, which would have been so fucking awkward.
Good phrase. It's a fucking fly in my apartment right
now. That's probably why I thought of the phrase.
Close all the windows so you can't hear the city.
But he got too drunk because it was his birthday the night before, so he just didn't show up. Thank God, because it would have been super fucking awkward to just have a guy doing the job and a guy
Smelling like
watching
alcohol,
and be like, Pete Holmes, oh, I love Pete Holmes.
Just like the shakes from the hangover.
Yeah, even if he wasn't drunk, it would have been stupid.
Yeah.
Um,
So then that obviously had an end, and you knew it had an end. So what else were you doing at the time to make money?
At that point, I was just doing a bunch of random shit. I was doing another gig thing. I was a butler. There was like an Uber of butlering.
I was gonna say, is it through an app?
Yeah.
What's it called?
Hello, Alfred.
Hello, Alfred.
They no longer.
Alfred, like Pennyworth?
Yeah, I guess that was the idea. It was like two female Harvard graduates started it. And it was kind of a nice company, but it was not fun being like a donkey for rich people.
Yeah, in like a tuxedo or no?
No, but it was just like going shopping for them and like hauling their shit up and down subways, like their entire grocery loads and all that stuff.
Were they nice though, those people?
Some of them. Some of them were really nice. Some of them were like kind of annoying, but yeah, the podcasting only took off when I kind of moved back to Westchester. And you know Bill Cannon, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I started producing his podcast.
Yeah.
That was the first like kind of regular, reliable podcast money I was getting.
Because he interviewed ex-cops or something?
Ex-cops. Yeah. And I was doing that. And that was interesting. You know, they were having all these crazy guys on, like the who's who of retired police officers.
Yeah, they make fun of who's beaten. Like, oh, you had a story of
this guy's balls were dipped in butter.
Oh.
That's what Paul loves to say. And I remember we had one guy on. This guy was famous because he had 9 kills justified, which means he was deemed by a judge that the killings were legal.
Yeah, and that were they successive? Was there like 2 at once and then 5 years and then another 6? Or
it was during the 70s in the Bronx, so
could have been 1 week.
It was apparently like very crazy in the Bronx.
That's where my parents grew up, 70s in the Bronx.
Yeah,
both of them.
Yeah, and he was interesting. He was an interesting guy, and I remember he like for some reason he took a liking to me and he gave me his business card. And I was like very depressed at that time in my life because I was like living in my mom's living room. I had just broken up with my ex, and I started stealing from Whole Foods every week. Like pretty much, I go hang out with these cops, and then I go to Whole Foods and I steal like $200 worth of food. That
kind of makes sense though. If once you're familiar with cops, you actually kind of feel like the law is just made up. Like
I got guys, I can just call these guys.
My sister's a cop. A lot of my friends are cops. Like I don't drive drunk, but I'm not. But if I got caught doing it where I grew up, I'm not that worried yet. Until someone I don't recognize shows up, I'm actually like, all right, we'll probably get out of this.
Yeah. So one day after a podcast, I go to the Whole Foods, and they catch me, and the manager corners me in the parking lot.
Yeah. Well, how do they catch you? Like physically, like
they blocked my car in with like carts, and they stood behind my car, and there was like a big concrete divider in front of the car, so I couldn't get over it in a Prius. Prius is not a good thief vehicle. And they just made me unload the car, and they were like, "We won't call the police if you unload them," and I guess I thought about running them over too long. So they called the police anyway, even though I unloaded the car.
Like, you won't call the cops, but I could run you over, so give me 5 minutes to figure this out.
So I take out the business card. I happen to have the business card for that murder guy. And I call him up, and he's like, "What'd you do?" And I said, I stole a lot of kombucha.
Oh my God.
And he's like, "All right, I'll come get you." And he came to the station.
Flash the badge.
They let me off.
He's undercover, let him know.
He was like, "Here, come in my car, I'll take you home." And after a while, I noticed we weren't going.
Just like, doors are locked, buddy.
And we go to this field, and he goes to this field in the middle of, I think, Hastings, and he's like, "This is where I was abducted." And I'm like, "What the fuck are you talking? I thought you were gonna take me home."
Yeah.
And he's like, "I got abducted by these aliens," and he's like, "Kombucha is how they control you."
This is the last thing I expected you to say. I thought he was going to go there and be like, "Now walk home."
No, or I'm going to kill you.
Yeah, or like, "All right, this is 10 million. I was waiting for it."
He had this whole conspiracy theory about how probiotics is a way of aliens controlling people.
That's the last person I wanted to know was legally killing people. I mean, fuck it. If you kill 9 people and you're not in the military and they're like, "All right, you're free to go," I would probably be like, maybe something else is going on.
So next time you drink Guava Goddess, remember.
I love kombucha too. I don't drink it unless I have like a hard day on Taskrabbit. Like if I'm moving all day and like I could feel it in my muscles, because that's something people think like when you're a mover, people are like, oh, you're getting in your workout today, and it's like no, unless it's significantly harder than everything else I've done. It's
Are you
just
still
my day.
doing
Yeah.
Taskrabbit?
Yeah, I was doing it yesterday. I did a 5th floor walk up for a guy who I don't know why he hired me because he had like 3 friends also help him. It was a car full of it was a car full of little stuff.
Oh,
Like
wow.
muscle was not needed.
They would not accept me on Taskrabbit. Maybe.
Were they accepting people and they just denied you?
I think they did. I think they just like barred my application because I tried applying a few times after that, and they just maybe I answered something weirdly without thinking.
Did they ghost you or they gave you like an explanation?
They just said like you're not fit for Taskrabbit.
That's so strange. Would they have done a background check?
Maybe.
Or they definitely do.
But that was
background
pre
check. Hire me.
Whole Foods.
Yeah. Oh wow. Okay.
And also the Whole Foods is not on my record anyway.
Yeah. Because when I did it, I had to. They stopped doing it in person, but I had to like go to wherever people used to go to in-person auditions. It was like an acting studio, and then some very sprightly gentleman gave us like a whole spiel, and then they activated the app. So you had to go in person, but I don't remember it being. Everyone I've put onto it, it was just a background check. If they were accepting people at the time, like they're not right now. I feel bad. I sold another comic on it. It was like 22. I was like, dude, if you're an able-bodied person, get some tools. This is fucking, it's the best thing for comedy. And I'm gassing him up, and then he goes on the app, he fills out all this thing, and then like the last thing was like, try again, there's too many people. I was like, I'm so sorry. I gave him my promo code so I can get money for it.
Sucks.
But it's seasonal. Like it's good that they do it like that, because when there's too many people, no one works. But yeah, someone told me that the background check didn't go through, and I was like, this guy hasn't even gotten a parking ticket. Like maybe you just sent something in wrong. Like ask him. He's like, yeah, that's what happened. I just sent in like my passport upside down, and that was it. But I can't imagine.
That might have been it. It might have been something like that, but they just like wouldn't let me access my application again, so I couldn't fix anything.
I would imagine it's that if you ever wanted to try it again, because I don't think they have a lot of people in like back of house. I don't know what to call it. People that like are on Taskrabbit but not doing Taskrabbit jobs. I don't think tech support is that many people. So back then it was probably even fewer, and it was probably just someone that was like, I don't want to explain this. No. Like next. I'm sorry. It was probably that, because if you weren't literally like they do a background check. If you weren't convicted of a crime, then you're in. Like there's people I see on it that don't speak English.
Well, luckily, I think I'm back into podcasting full time. There was a minute there last year I was kind of laid off from my job producing podcasts of 3 years. I was working for like a bigger company, and they kind of just like they were like, actually, we're gonna give you $5 less an hour, and then like actually we're gonna cut your pay by 60%.
Oh my god!
And actually, we've been bought by another company. We're just
And then that was, I mean, I guess up until they got bought, it sounds like they were just losing money and they needed to save it any way they could. But then they get bought, so it's like,
yeah. And I still haven't been paid for like the last 2 months.
fuck that.
Yeah.
Oh, that bothers me so much.
But luckily, I've been picking up gigs again. So I was training a dog walk, and then in the nick of time, I got another gig, and I was like, sorry.
It's weird how that works. Every time I've like been in like a money slump, and I'm like, all right, I got it. Like even on Taskrabbit, like I don't do mounting anymore because I fucking hate it for a million reasons. And then recently I've been in kind of a slump, so I just added it again because I can do it. I just don't want to.
Yeah.
And as soon as I've added it, regular other work has just flown in. Like
mounting is just putting in anchors.
Yeah, just getting it in the wall or the ceiling. And it's very fundamentally different than assembly, because assembly is just, it's in the box, everything you need's in the box.
I don't have to worry about destroying a person's apartment.
Put it together, you're not going to break anything. And more than even destroying the apartment, like there is to a level of anxiety about that. The other issue is I don't want to fucking talk to them and be like, is this good? Has this up that? Because no one knows. It's not like I could be like, oh, you want the Harrison special? Like, okay, this is how it goes. Like, I have to ask them, like, is this fine?
Or be like an interior decorator.
And then they ask, like, what do you think? I'm like, I'm smelling it. I can't fucking see from the distance that matters. I don't know.
You just hold it up.
Yeah.
And then I'll go over here.
Yeah. So I hated that. And then this isn't anyone's fault. It's just the way things are. But like, if I was in the suburbs and had like a truck with like everything I could have, then this wouldn't be a problem. But in the city, a lot of people move in and they have high ceilings, and the first thing they do, they need to put up blinds. So there's nothing to stand on.
Right.
and there's blinds that are 15 feet higher than me.
Right.
What the fuck do I do about that? I had to ask people, like, can you ask the building? And they're like, they have it, but they can't give it to you because of insurance. I'm like, well, I can't fucking do that. And then I'd have to leave. It's awkward. Whose fault is it?
Waste your time.
Yeah, maybe I get paid, maybe I don't. So I hated doing it. And then with like TVs and stuff like that, anything heavy, like art's one thing because you have to get it straight, but it's light, so like anything will go on the wall one way or another. But like TVs and like mirrors, anything heavy, you need to anchor it, and it, like ideally it goes into a stud. But Manhattan is 400 years old. Nothing is. Everything's just duct taped over the previous way of doing things.
Yeah.
There's no standard. Like the 16 on center with studs does not exist. I've never seen it once in my life. Yesterday, we were my girlfriend and I were taking measurements of something over there. I couldn't find my regular measuring tape, so I got like a mounting measuring tape that I have, and on that is a stud finder. And I just out of curiosity, I'm like, where are the studs in this place? There aren't any.
Oh god.
And if there are, it's not made of metal. Like
my stud finder keeps finding electricity wiring.
Yeah. Oh, is it electric yours? And it beeps or?
Yeah.
I had one of those. Mine's literally just a powerful magnet. So like if there's a nail or even just a metal stud, it'll find it and it'll stay there. There's none. I don't know how this is a 100-year-old building. I don't know how it's staying together, but not with metal.
Yeah, my super put a surfboard rack in my wall, and he found studs, but like a year after, it just fucking fell off.
No. So that's another reason I don't do mounting. It came in phases. I stopped doing it for people because it was annoying, and then I would only, if they asked for TVs, I'd be like, all right, well at least that's a little different. So I would do TVs. Then I got sick of it because my drill at the time couldn't go into brick or concrete. So if it's drywall or plaster or something, I can figure it out. But if it's brick or concrete, my drill literally just wouldn't do it. And that would be awkward. So I was like, I can't do this. Then my friends would ask me every time they move, can you do it? And I'm like, okay. If I can't do it, it's still my friend. Like, it's not like I care about disappointing them. Like, they'll just hire someone who can. So I would do it for my friends. And the last time I did it, my friends hired me to do 2 TVs, one in the living room, one in their room. And I did the living room one, and it's fine. And then I go in the bedroom, and it's a smaller TV. It's like a fucking Game Boy. Like, it's 10 pounds. And I put the mount in. And this is FiDi. It's a skyscraper, but it's in FiDi. So I don't know. The wall was like 2 inches of like drywall and then brick.
Okay.
So nothing made sense. Right. Like I could kind of, like I'm going through the drywall, and I'm like, thank God I can just plug in an anchor, and this is easy. And then the drill stops. So I'm like, what? And I'm like, maybe I've hit the pipe or something. And then I see red clay come out of the hole. And I'm like, what the fuck? There's brick behind it? Maybe there's an anchor that exists, people that know things that does that. I didn't have it. So I like cut the anchor so that it would fit in just the drywall. And then I put the screw in, gave it a little tug, felt okay. And then I left. And they didn't tell me this, but it fell out of the fucking wall like a month later or something, or maybe an hour later, I don't know. But it fell out of the wall, and I was like, all right, I'm done forever. Sucks. But I just put it back on because the app's been shitty. And but to make myself feel better, I literally bought another drill that could like hammer into anything. So like now I can drill into stuff. But I'm as low as I could be on it, and no one's hiring me. But it's just for that. Like for moving and assembly, it's fine. I have so many reviews that people they don't care about the price.
When you hang a painting, how do you make sure it's level?
There's a couple ways. I mean, one is to just have one. Like I do have like a little like 6-inch level. That's easy. That's easy to carry. It depends what they're using on the behind it. Like sometimes you'll see those 2 little like hooks, the little TV hooks.
Yeah, those are the ones that are a pain in the ass.
I hate those because you have to assume that those were put on correctly with a laser at exactly the right. If they're even a little off, you can make it work, but you have to account for that. You do all this fucking math and trick. I'm like, that's not why I do this. Like,
you have to do trigonometry?
I mean, you should, but I don't. I just fucking eyeball stuff. But all that is making me think like I'm doing this so I could do jokes. Like that's why I like assembly. That's why I like moving, because I'm not thinking. Like I've seen it once. I've seen it 1,000 times. I'm basically on autopilot, and then I'm thinking of whatever I'm going to joke about that day. But when you're doing like hanging, you're really like the numbers and equations are flying, like the Rain Man scene. Like it's just not what I want to do.
Mentally exhausted.
Yeah, and then also with TVs for a while, I lost my level, but I was still mounting stuff. So I would use my phone, which is recording this, but everyone's phone is a level. Like it has that technology in it. That's how it knows if you're like horizontal or not. So there's an app. It was just bubble level app, and then you put your phone on something. I still use it sometimes, but at the time I was using it, I didn't know for like a year that I was using the side of the phone with the buttons on it. So the phone wasn't level.
Yeah.
So I would be doing everything 2 degrees relative to the, and I found it out doing it once.
Both sides have fucking fun.
I don't have an iPhone, so there was like I have a blackout button on one side and then like 3 other buttons on the other side. Okay. It was not even. And when I caught myself doing it, I was like, I'm fucking done with this forever. This is not worth it.
Have you seen the measuring app where you can just point it and be like?
I don't trust that. I trust the technology. I briefly actually had a 9 to 5 in between Taskrabbit just to see how it was, and that was construction based. So I was behind a desk, but I'd be in the field looking at certain jobs just to like make sure things are what they are. And I've seen people use that where they just like have a laser and it just says exactly how much distance it is. So I trust that. I don't trust it on a phone. It's just they got to be cutting corners. Like, what I want to see. All right, we're at like 20 minutes, which is good. I'm trying to figure out how to split certain stuff up into like the Patreon. Yeah. Because I want that to be like the juicy stuff that people feel like they got what they paid for.
Get that juice.
So second to crazy, what's like the craziest thing? I feel like the fucking kombucha thing is gonna be up there. But what was the craziest thing? Or actually, how about this? Because now that I know exactly what you do, was there anything were there ever any episodes you were present for where something was said, and instead of saying like cut that, they were just like just fucking throw the whole thing in the trash, like without saying what it is, but like, was there any just like abortion episodes of anything?
I'm trying to think. I'm sure there must have been, but
or ones that you should have thought.
Listen, I've worked for so many different podcasts. I worked for fucking Jim Norton. I worked for Robert Kelly. I worked for the History Hyenas. I worked for JJ Redick. I worked for basketball player. Yeah, I worked for a bunch. I know there were things cut out, but like I don't tend to listen to the episodes afterwards because I'm just like I get the raw, unedited, cool version. Yeah. But I'm not gonna listen to the edited version afterwards. Yeah. But I do have like a kind of crazy story. Like I was working for Dave Jenkins for a couple years, and he's like a celebrity chef, very interesting guy. Like he was supposed to kind of be the next Anthony Bourdain.
Okay.
He was buddies with him, and you know he was kind of setting him up, you know, mentoring him to be the next guy.
Oh wow! When you're a chef like that, do you still work? You can't still work chef hours. That's like
you do for a while. Like even Anthony Bourdain for his first 1 or 2 shows, he was still a head chef.
Oh wow!
At least in name.
And that's like what 5 p.m. to like 2 a.m. probably, or
well, when you're a head chef, you know, sometimes you just oversee. You just show up and oversee, and maybe you make sure someone else is doing.
Maybe once everyone's done eating, you're like, all right, fucking.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna leave. You guys clean up.
Yeah. Okay. But yeah, he was more corporate. Dave Chang was more corporate by this time. You know, like he was just kind of the face of a company that had gotten bought out. I think while I was working with him, Momofuku got bought out by a bigger place, and it was kind of cool to see him use that money to mentor people and give other young chefs their big break, because he was like, I'm playing with their money, so I'm just gonna give this person a restaurant and give this young guy a restaurant, see what the fuck happens. That was really cool to see.
That's awesome.
Yeah, but he was like it was just cool to be around super successful people, including him. Like he would do what you're doing right there. He had the timer up, you know, make sure he doesn't waste a second of his time. And you know, we had former UN Secretary Generals.
Yeah, you mentioned that in the forum, by the way. Yeah, talk about that.
I don't even remember what they said, honestly. But there was just so many of them, like amazing chefs. You know, Rene Redzepi from Noma, who's had won the best restaurant in the world multiple times.
I should. So there's some things I know. I feel like everyone might like if it's TVs or movies, I could tell you who like directed it, acted in it, all that stuff. If it's music or food, 2 things I love. I'll never know who made it. Like you could play me the same song I love 1,000 times. I'll never remember who sang it.
Well, I'm a food guy. Like I grew up watching.
There we go.
Watching Anthony Bourdain, read all his books. Kind of wanted to be him. Like immediately after high school, I went to Asia. You know,
which we didn't talk about, but yeah, you were in a monastery for a while, right?
I was in a monastery.
In what part of the world? Tibet? Japan. Okay.
And Thailand, I did it too. But
let's make that the Patreon. So we'll talk about that in a second. But thank you guys for watching. We're going to do this every week. Kind of a gig deal. We're going to talk about gig work, anything that's not just sitting behind a desk 9 to 5, and all the things you got to do, all the blood, sweat, and tears that goes into making it work in the entertainment industry, which we're still doing. We're still doing the gig work. But anyways, thank you guys. We'll see you next week.
Wait, do I get a plug shit?
Yes, plug shit. Please plug shit. This will be out somewhere in November before Thanksgiving. So yeah, so let's do Instagram. What's that?
Andrew Steiner without the A.
Andrew. So just Andrew Steiner minus the A.
Yeah.
And then do you do TikTok?
I do, but mostly I'm on YouTube. Like mostly
Cool.
I post a lot of clips there.
Okay.
And yeah, just tour dates on andrewsteiner.net.
andrewsteiner.net. That should be it, right? And then me, I don't know. I guess if you're not doing Patreon, at Real Dave Jenkins. This podcast will be on Instagram. Kind of a gig deal. It's all lowercase, and FAG is very easy to read in it because it's kind of a gig deal. I read it wrong the first time I saw it. I'm like, people are gonna read this like another word. But so we're there. At Real Dave Jenkins on anything. If I'm on it, that's my name. But yeah, we'll see you guys next week. And stay tuned for the Patreon, which is coming up right now.